Hey, hey, hey. Happy Tuesday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, interestingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So, welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. And this is live stream number 1158. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And throughout the month of February, I've been taking first looks at game releases. And tonight will be no different, because we're going to dive on in and take a first look at Campaign Builder Dungeons and Ruins from my friends over at Kobold Press. We will also take a look at the Map Folio, which is available as well. So that is what's on tonight's show. If you are tuning in for that first look at Campaign Builder Dungeons and Ruins, and you're not familiar with the show, do want to mention we tackle the tabletop gaming news first. So if you're watching live, it's probably going to be about 35, maybe 40 minutes before we get into that first look. Now, of course, if you're watching after the fact, maybe you're watching on Memorex. If so, there are timestamps both in the timeline of the video as well as in the comments, or I shouldn't say comment section, show notes portion. I think that's what they consider the info box underneath to be. That timestamps there if you don't want to check out the tabletop gaming news, although there's cool stuff. You can skip it. Just use those timestamps. All righty. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And of course, because this is a live stream, there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber to the channel for 10 whole minutes before you can take part in chat. Another way that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you check both those boxes and you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, fire away. I'll do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight is our good friend of the show, the Madman. Followed by Wallona's Cave, Pete's Dracolich. Mike is with us, as is Matthew Blackwell, Sean O'Donnell, Semper Buffo, Kathy Evans, Kevin R. Smith, Gleamwin RX, Jose Fernandez, and I think that's everybody. Got a lot of folks hanging out in chat right now, and very possibly the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D is hanging with us as well, lurking in the shadows as one of our chat moderators alongside the Madman. I mean, she's a chat moderator alongside the Madman, not that she's sitting in the shadows alongside the Madman. They're states apart. So no, that's not how that's working. Keith Ulu and Christopher Lundgren are also popping on in. I see Warren Rawlings is also joining us. Very cool. Very cool. All righty then. So we're going to dive on into the tabletop gaming news. I will be also talking a little bit about Gen Con. Oh, there you go. Sarah D's with us. She said, I might be. You never know. She might be sitting next to the Madman. I don't know. I didn't get done watching it. I started watching that Ashley Madison documentary on Netflix, because I tend to watch a lot of documentaries, and I'm kind of running out of stuff to watch. All right, we're not going there. Not going there. There you go. Kevin R. Smith says, the madman may get hit with a hammer soon. Anywho, so we're going to talk a little bit about Gen Con. We got our press passes. We got our hotel. We'll discuss. It's not any problem or anything like that, but I think it was, well, you'll have to tell me if it was a good idea for me to reach out to our press contact at Gen Con. I'll tell you the story. Then you can tell me if I did the right thing, because the reality is I'm pretty sure I did. Otherwise, might have been a problem. Might have been a problem. All right, so let's jump on into the news, because River of Lies from Horseshark Games has landed for the Purple Planet setting. It is out in print and PDF from Exalted Funeral. Here's what I know. As you venture across the Purple Planet, multiple lightning strikes streak the sky. Within moments, you are caught in a torrential downpour. A great crashing sluice of water forms around you. Lightning strikes again, and you see several ethereal kith beckoning to you. The ghost river of Varnasu would claim you. A great zephyr from the storm-racked sky flings you into the waters, and as you struggle against the mighty rapids, you wonder if the legendary deluge will truly grant everlasting life, or is it just a river of lies? River of Lies is a third-level adventure designed for use with the Purple Planet setting by Goodman Games. The Purple Planet is rich with inspiration from the appendix and authors like Edgar Rice Burroughs and Robert E. Howard. Space operas like Lensman and Flash Gordon. What, we're not going to give the authors of those credit? We say Edgar Rice Burroughs, Robert E. Howard, and then we say Lensman. Isn't that E. Doc Smith, if I remember correctly? Flash Gordon, I don't remember. And the second edition Dungeons & Dragons post-apocalyptic science fiction setting, Dark Sun. You thought I was going to say Gamma World. No, it's Dark Sun. River of Lies utilizes the Purple Planet's Ghost River of Varnasu and the Ancestor Peaks to present a dangerous meeting with the House of Theroargst, leaders of a lost religious cult of the Ascended Masters. Literary inspirations include The God of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs, Death's Master by Tanis Lee, and The Citadel of the Autarch by Gene Wolfe. River of Lies includes the runic lore handout, The Prophecy of the Weirdling Sun, a bonus one-page encounter, The Last Mushroom of Ishgarols by James A. Pozinil Jr. My apologies on that, as well as The Twilight Spires by Don Stroud. The 24-page softcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $25. You can grab just the PDF loan over at DriveThruRPG for $9. Gotta say, looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. And it's nice to see some third-party material arriving for Purple Planet, which I'm kind of interested in that. It's not necessarily up there on my list of things like, I don't know, Dark Tower, which we took a look at last week, and that I will be sharing a review of shortly. But I wouldn't mind have checked out Purple Planet. I kind of like the space fantasy. Kind of cool. So once again, kind of nice to see some third-party material out there for Purple Planet. I'm not sure how much has been released for that from Goodman Games, but if I remember correctly, I think the original edition of Purple Planet had quite a few adventures to it. Maybe. Kevin R. Smith says it's, I called it as a DCC supplement just from the look of the cover. Of course. Yes. That is, and you know what? I'm not sure who that artist is because it's not, it doesn't look like it was Doug Kovacs. Alex Raymond created Flash Gordon. Thank you, Keithulu. And yes, Kevin R. Smith says Lensman is Doc Smith. Like I said, I think it's E.E. Doc Smith. The werewolf is with us. Welcome aboard. Let's move it along with more role-playing game news because Cubicle 7 Games has begun taking pre-orders for the eagerly anticipated Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay High Elf Player's Guide. Here's what I know. A guide to the lands and culture of Ulthuan, the High Elves that live there. High Elves are great characters that create and play. Their acute senses, athletic grace, perceptive minds, and long lives provide them with many natural advantages over the humans of the old world. Added to this, their potential to achieve mastery in the fields of swordsmanship, archery, and magic means that High Elves make the most of a life of adventure. They can develop into powerful characters with access to a suite of abilities few can rival. High Elves also present challenges. Controlling their emotions is key to making the best of them. Their abilities require dedication to learn and failure to keep abreast of the latest intrigues in the courts of Ulthuan could lead to a quick fall from grace. The High Elf Player's Guide is the ultimate guide to creating and playing High Elf characters in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. This is an essential guide to the High Elves of Ulthuan. No, it is Ulthuan. Ulthuan. I'm going with that. Ulthuan. Their land, history, religion, and culture. New careers for High Elf characters, including the Swordmaster, Mage, Seaguard, and Shadow Warrior. Rules for the High Elves, prophetic dreams, overriding obsessions, and maintaining the spiritual balance. Yenloi, a system for playing an elf who has lived for many centuries, or one that carries the cursed blood of Inarian, the first of the High Elf Phoenix Kings. Explore the lore of high magic, including a comprehensive list of spells and creating powerful high mages, and participate in the infamous intrigues of the kingdoms. This 144-page hardcover is going to carry an MSRP of $39.99. It's going to ship out in the third quarter of this year. PDF is available right now. I actually received a copy from Cubicle 7 Games. That's how I'm sharing these images with you. You can score that over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. Very cool. Very cool. New Whiff-Rip stuff. I know the Dwarf Player's Guide should be hitting print soon. Gotta say, I am kind of curious as far as Cubicle 7 Games' old world role-playing game, which is slated to arrive sometime this year. And if I remember correctly, the timeline is supposed to be, I think it's 250 years before the old world setting for Whiff-Rip. But it's a completely different role-playing system. So it's going to use a dice pool of 10-sided dice. I don't know. I kind of feel a little bit like I do with Free League Publishing. Kind of feels like Cubicle 7 Games might be stretching themselves a little bit thin. You're going to have a couple of Warhammer Fantasy role-play products out there. Two totally different systems. You also got the reality is they do have a couple of Warhammer 40K role-playing games with completely different systems. Seem to be doing all right with that. But still, I don't know. I think part of it is because I enjoy Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay so much, and I like the setting so much. I'd like to see more going on in that than the introduction of a new setting, which, of course, yes, I get it. It coincides with the new miniatures, yes, or newer miniatures game. Kevin R. Smith says, especially when they invent a new system for every product, at least all of Free League's non-licensed products use the year zero engine. Well, except for Meatberg. Hey, speaking of Free League Publishing, they did release news. I did not put a news piece together for this because there's really not anything to report outside of Free League Publishing is teaming up with Skybound Entertainment for Invincible superhero role-playing. So it will be based on the Invincible comic book as well as the Amazon series, and it will be coming to Kickstarter later this year. I shared a news piece over on thegaminggang.com, but only thing they've shared is an image of the book cover and people saying, oh, yeah, I really like Invincible. I can't wait to create a role-playing game for it. So I am mentioning it, not giving it a news piece. Moving right along, the latest supplement for the Traveler role-playing game has arrived from Mongoose Publishing, and I've got the skinny on the Borderland. Lying between the Imperium and Aslan Harriet, the Borderland is a region of opportunity and danger. Pirates skulk among the outer planets, whilst bands of Ahati try their luck against underdeveloped worlds. I sure like these fictional names that I can just absolutely butcher. They're not real things and places and people and thus. The worlds of the Borderland hold many mysteries. Yeah, like the Caves of Chaos. Survivor populations hide among the ruins of lost colonies, and rumors speak of hidden bases and lost treasures waiting to be found. Some worlds are all but unexplored, with hidden dangers for those venturing beyond the dim lights of civilization. There are other forces at play in the Borderland. Shadowy corporations and ramshackle alliances vie for control of the space lanes, whilst the reclusive stakeholders of Tech World pursue their extreme lifestyles and personal agendas with equal vigor. Oh, I could start talking about something right now, but I'm not. I'm not going to the obvious place. This is a place to tread lightly and carry a big stick, where fame and fortune lie just a heartbeat from disaster. This is the Borderland. The Borderland is a useful source book providing the referee with a semi-isolated sandbox within which to set a campaign. Not too big to get lost in and far enough away from other systems to keep a new campaign on track. You can pre-order the 256-page hardcover with PDF for an MSRP of $49.99. I do not have a release date for that yet, but Mongoose Publishing is implying that it is not far off. Usually I would say probably 6 months, but just reading between the lines of what I've seen from Mongoose, maybe a month or two? I don't know. I'm just saying they are taking pre-orders. You can get the PDF with that hardcover for an MSRP of $49.99. Or, of course, you can grab the PDF right now over at DriveThruRPG for $29.99. Chris Lundgren says, Traveler never played, always seemed complicated. It's really not. I gotta be honest, there are far more complicated role-playing games out there. Pathfinder 2nd Edition Remaster comes immediately to mind. 5e. I mean, okay, so here's where the complexity, in my opinion, comes from. It's when you have player characters who delve in trade. if you have player characters who are travelers, which is just a term for adventurers, but if they're adventurers and merchants as well, and then you have to calculate, fuel and all these other, then you start getting into some complexities. But that's more downtime sort of activities, whereas the actual action resolution is pretty quick and easy. It's 2 6-sided dice, looking to roll higher than the target number, usually like 8. So they're not overly difficult at all. Here's what I would recommend you do. Chris, you and Buddy jump online later tonight and you go and you get the Explorer's Edition PDF of Traveler. It's $1. And it is, I think it's about 100 pages in length. So it's not some little quick start. You give that a peek, and then you'll be able to get a better feel if Traveler would be for you and your groups or not. But, I mean, I like what Mongoose has done with Traveler. I wish I had an opportunity to review a lot of their stuff. I did review their box set. They called it their starter set, which was funny. It took the core rule book, divided it into 2 books, but it was the entire game. It wasn't like most starter sets where it's like, well, hey, we're going to get you started here. We're not going to give you character creation rules. Here's some pre-gens. No, it was the full game, just divided into a couple of soft covers. Chris Lundgren says, you get it where? DriveThruRPG. The PDF is $1. It's $1. So I'll buy that for $1. So yeah, just go. It's Traveler Explorer's Edition. Super easy. Pete Strikelich agrees. Yes. Moving right along, there is a relatively new bundle of holding which arrived. It features the Pot-Bellied Kobold series from Jeff Stevens Games. I've got the deets on the deal. Adventure. This all-new Pot-Bellied Kobold bundle presents adventures from the Pot-Bellied Kobold, weapons of legend, and other tabletop role-playing supplements and adventures from Jeff Stevens Games for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and compatible systems. The low-level assignments given by a cursed kobold wizard in Pot-Bellied Kobold send your heroes to a cloud giant's palace, a demon's prison, a healing temple for retired adventurers, a Frankenstein lab making 2-headed zombies, the Athenium of Dust, the Slime Cave of Norwal, Clunk Spindle's Clockwork Conundrum, and other exotic destinations on short and sweet one-shot adventures that fill an evening. Then with Weapons of Legend, your characters will watch their evolving magical armaments increase in power as they complete tasks, finish quests, or gain experience. Who knows? They might even cure the cursed kobold. For just $19.95, you'll get all 6 titles in the Pot-Bellied collection as a retail value of $81. These are DRM-free PDFs, including the complete adventures from the Pot-Bellied Kobold, Pot-Bellied Kobold's Guide to Villains and Layers, along with the Villainous Mini Supplement Annual. I'm guessing at that pronunciation there. Weapons of Legend, a source book with dozens of magical weapons that rise in power along with their owner, and 2 5e adventures, Horror at Devil's Run and Infestation at Devil's Glade. These savings will run through March 17th. Looks kind of fun. I will say I'm probably most interested in the adventures from the Pot-Bellied Kobold. These are all like really big sellers over on DriveThruRPG too. I actually had to search around just to find these images that didn't have like the like mithril seller or, you know, bestseller stamps on it. So nice. Dan Webb is with us. Says Traveler was the first role-playing game they played with complete strangers. They found their name on a cork bulletin board. Well, that's pretty wild. That's kind of cool. All right, on to our final news piece. The old school Renaissance zine Fights On. That's right. I've got the skinny on issue 16 from Fight On Publications. Out of the dungeon and into your quivering palms, Fight On is back again, bringing the full Monty of magic and mayhem to your subterranean halls. 4 big adventures, along with classes, races, maps, rules variants, new worlds, monsters, magic items, spells, NPCs, end tables, and other goodies galore, will fill your fantasy campaigns with new wonders for your dark towers and demon web pits. Dedicated to fantasy art legend David A. Trampier, this issue features contributions from great heroes old and new, from Dave Hargrave and Tim Kask to Peter Mullen and Cameron Hawkey, and many, many, many more. This big 128-page issue picks off pit fiends like a +5 pike of piercing. Don't delve deeper into the darkling depths without it. The 128-page softcover zine carries an MSRP of $7.99 over at Lulu. Yes, you heard that right. I very rarely mention Lulu. If you want to just score the PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $4.99. And I've got to say, it's good to see Fight On is back. I believe they returned with a winter, I think it was a winter 2024 issue, which is what you're seeing images from, because I could not find any images that are from issue 16. My assumption is it's going to be very, very similar. But if you are into the OSR, you have heard of Fight On. Fight On was probably, if not the premier OSR zine, it was one of the most popular, and not only most popular, but well regarded. I have heard, now personally, I don't have the early issues or anything like that, but I can tell you that some of the adventures that are contained in the early issues of Fight On are really highly regarded. Very nice. Very nice. Kevin King says, so order from Lulu now, and it might print and ship before June. Fingers crossed, right? Pete Strackwood says they always get emails with 15% discount codes from Lulu. Their printing quality is great. I don't know what it's like now. I believe they did the print for my copy of Osric, which is fine, but they also did the printing for the copy of the revamp of Fletcher Pratt's Naval Warfare, which was terrible. And it was all full of formatting errors and stuff like that. Every page just had tons and tons of terrible formatting errors, making it impossible, almost impossible to read. And it was like, seriously? Seriously. All righty. But yes, I have heard that Lulu's printing is a bit better nowadays. Hey, you know what? You might have forgotten. I actually sell physical copies of Knights and Magic through Lulu. So I get my my royalties, I guess we'll say, every few months or so. Yeah. And I don't know, everybody's always like, Jeff, when when are you going to do that update? When are you going to update it? And I'm like, oh, probably never, because I just don't have time for it. W. Forge says, I used to sleepwalk because they missed their dog, Lulu. Who gets the reference? I don't get it off the top of my head. My apologies. So Chris Lundgren says they've been lucky. Lulu's never been bad, but Chris said they've been told they've got new printers. Yeah, it's kind of funny. A lot of publishers out there had swapped out on their printers, especially over the last year or so. I don't know. Don't know. Just like, what was it? Cubicle 7 Games. I think if I remember correctly, they switched to a printer out of Poland. So, there you have it. All right. That is it for the tabletop gaming news tonight. Of course, I did mention DriveThruRPG quite a bit. So if you are going to visit DriveThruRPG, say, I don't know, maybe to pick up that $1 copy of Traveler Explorer Edition from Mongoose Publishing, by all means, pop on over to thegaminggang.com first, click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase at any of the One Bookshelf sites, I get a small portion of that sale. All those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find the Gaming Gang to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Lovely. Kevin R. Smith also mentions there's a $1 Merchants Edition if you're really into free trader campaigns. So right there, you could spend $2 and get quite a good amount of content. There would be some redundancy because they're both core rule books. Well, core, I don't want to say quick starts because there's a lot more to it than a quick start would have. Little starters. Let's say baby starter sets. I don't know. Oh, there you go. W. Forge says Honeymooners reference. Norton was sleepwalking. I got to say, I didn't watch that much of the Honeymooners. There was even going way back to when I was a kid, and the Honeymooners in the Chicago area, they were in reruns later at night, probably about 11 o'clock at night. So I didn't see them too often then. But when I would, I could just that whole underlying sense of you knew that Jackie Gleason's character was just beating the shit out of, what is it? Was it Audrey Meadows? No, Audrey Meadows was the other actress. Yeah, you just knew Ralph was just beating the hell out of Alice. Bang zoom, Alice! To the moon, Alice! And it's always... So yeah, even as a kid, that kind of maybe feel creepy. So, although, Art Carney was awesome. He was hysterical in that show. Anywho, Dan Webb with a super chat for $1. Thank you very kindly. Disciple012 is popping on in. Said they ordered some Shadow Dark stuff from Lulu once. Actually delivered a bit faster than DriveThruRPG does. Very cool. Very nice. Very nice. Gleeman RX says Goodman Games emailed today announced the bundle for Dungeon Crawl Classics Lonkmar PDF for $12 on Fanatical. I didn't know about this site sold book bundles. Going to keep my eye on them from now on. I think I stumbled across something, but I didn't look further into it. W. Forge is pointing out, yes, The channel has reached 15,000 subscribers. Thank you very much, everybody. I think we're at 15,005. It was funny because we hit like 15,001. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to wait before I say, hey, we've hit 15,000. Because strangely enough, I see it every day on YouTube. It'll be like, okay, suddenly we'll drop like 4 subs and then we'll go up 5. Then we drop 5, then we go up 6. And it's like back and forth. So I didn't want to be like, oh yeah. It's like we hit 15,000 and then suddenly we're at 14,999, which happened. And we sat at 14,999 for most of, I think it was Saturday. So yes, good thing I didn't say, hey, everybody. Kevin R. Smith says, I heard the point that was that Ralph threatened to beat her, but never did. It was supposedly based on a relationship between Jackie Gleason's parents. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. But I mean, there's just the whole, it has not aged, as Kevin R. Smith also points out. W. Ford says, it was Audrey Meadows. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, so we are going to be diving on in and taking a first look at Campaign Builder, Dungeons and Ruins from Kobold Press in just a few moments. Did want to talk about Gen Con. So the housing portal opened on Sunday for Gen Con 2025. And I know passes went on sale, I think it was like a couple of weeks ago. And usually when passes go on sale to the public, that also means that we can apply for our press passes. So I applied for the press passes for myself because we get 2. You know, honestly, I could probably push it and get more than that. I just never do. So I got press pass for myself and Elliot as well. And then, well, so I submitted the applications. And normally, when I submit my press pass application for Gen Con, it is approved within a few hours. It's always the same day. So a couple of days went by, didn't get any sort of, you know, confirmation or anything like that. And I thought, all right, well, they had us accept the terms and conditions on the website. And a lot of times, like prior years, you'd submit your application, then you'd get an email back that had a link to the terms and conditions that you had to accept. And then after that, you would get your approval. So they just cut that whole piece out and just had you fill out the, you know, agree to the terms and conditions right there on the website as you're submitting your application. So I'm like, huh, how come we haven't gotten our approval yet? This is weird. So there is a contact who's been our contact for a long time. It's the only contact I remember for all the years we've been covering Gen Con. So I sent an email and I just, it was pleasant enough. I just had asked if press were going to have access to the housing portal like we normally do because we hadn't been approved yet. And I said, you know, normally our press passes are approved within a few hours. Yeah, it's been more than a couple of days. I'm just curious. I mean, if we're not going to have access to the housing portal, it's not that big a deal. So I got an email back saying, yes, I've been approving press passes when I have time. And yes, you will have access to the housing portal. We're like, okay. So we didn't get our time until Saturday. So I got a time and Elliot got a time because we're considered 2 separate entities, right? So if you went and you bought passes for yourself and your family for Gen Con, let's say you bought 4 passes in total, the person who bought the passes is the one who's going to get the housing portal time to jump on board. You don't get 4 times. So I get my time. It's 3:37 Eastern. I'm like, okay, well, that's not horrible. It's not great. It's not horrible. I wonder what Elliot got. And stupid me, I could have just gone into the email address because I have access to everyone's email address at thegaminggang.com and taken a peek, but not thinking. I was like, well, I'll just wait, find out from Elliot. So Elliot's, now keep in mind, the hotel portal opened at noon Eastern. Elliot's time was 12:14. We were like, yes, any one of the hotels is going to be ours. You can choose whichever hotel we want. So, of course, I had already been looking at the various different hotels. And because I bring stuff to the auction, and the auction isn't in the convention center anymore, it's over in the Marriott across the street. I was like, okay, we're not going to stay at Crown Plaza as much as I liked it. That's a long haul to drag my auction stuff because I usually have 5 boxes or more. I think this year it'll probably only be about 4. And I'm not talking massive boxes. I'm talking, boxes like this. And I was like, okay, let's go stay on that side of the street. That side of the convention center. So weirdly enough, when I went on, because I was going to book the room, even though it was Elliot's time, I could access through his password and that, because I go on Wednesdays. So I'm always at Gen Con Wednesday early afternoon at the latest. That way I can drop my stuff off at the auction, not have to run around or anything like that. Well, Elliot can't make it until Thursday night because his job the first week of the month is always just insanely busy. And there's, he's lucky if he can take the Friday off. And it's like every Gen Con, it's always like this. So anyway, I had to book the room because that way I can check in, right? It's on my card. So we go, and for whatever reason, I was like, what the hell's going on? Every hotel I looked at didn't have 2 beds in a room. They were all 1 king-size bed. I was like, what the hell? I'm like, what is up with this? So we're staying at the Fairfield Inn and Suites, which is hop, skip, and a jump right over to the convention center. And of course, Elliot's excited because he's never stayed downtown for Gen Con. We've always had to, go drive, park, walk, unless we could get the parking garage across the street from the convention center, which I don't even think is open anymore because they were building a hotel there. So, anywho, I was like, well, damn it, I'm not going to screw around here too long looking at hotels because we wanted the Fairfield Inn and Suites, mainly because they had a free breakfast, and that's a big deal for Elliot. Elliot wants breakfast. So anyway, I booked the room, and then I called the hotel to find out why is it that all the Marriott properties were showing only 1 king bed. And the woman took a look. She goes, no, I'm showing all these, doubles and stuff like that. I said, well, for one, I guarantee they did not have anything that was going on with the housing portal because they don't get that information until like May. All they know is they've got rooms blocked off. So she gave me the number for Gen Con's housing. I was like, really? I'm like, okay, I'll call. I mean, it's Sunday, but I don't know if anybody's going to be there. So anyway, so I called and this woman answered. She was super nice, very, very friendly. And she was taking a look and she's like, yeah, I'm just showing it's all kings. Now, we had already booked the room because I didn't want to screw around. Yes, Chris Lindgren's throwing out the planes, trains, and automobiles line, which we've already joked about, Elliot and I. Those aren't two pillows, or those aren't pillows. So anyway, so she said, you know what it is? The VIPs and the exhibitors had access to the housing portal before you did. So that was something that had changed, which is actually good because there were exhibitors in the past who they got, you know, if you were an exhibitor, you got a time like everybody else. Now, I would take a guess that the exhibitors for companies like, say, I don't know, Paizo Inc. had access to housing portals before anybody else years ago. But if you were just a regular exhibitor, you were rolling the dice like everybody else. Because I had talked to some smaller publishers who were staying further out than we did. So that was what the deal was. So exhibitors and VIPs, which I am not one, had access to the housing portal days before everybody else did, which is okay, which is fine with me. So all I plan on doing is once I find out when those reservations hit that hotel, I'm going to call the hotel, see if I can swap it out. So Mike says, I spent 4 years on a submarine. I can make room for lots on that one king. You know, it's kind of funny because I've shared beds when we go to conventions before. So it's usually when we would go, the four of us, when it was my brother Greg, our friend David, Elliot, and I going to Comic-Con, we would share 2 king-size beds. So, but the thing is, like I said to Elliot, I said, well, do you really want to spend that kind of money? Because it's coming out to like $1,200, which I pay the majority of because I'll be there a night more than Elliot. I said, do you really want to be paying that kind of money to have to sleep next to me? I said, you're not going to get any. He's like, yeah, I understand what you mean. He's like, not really. So I'm going to see what I can do. Somebody just said something about the press passes not giving you, Gleeman RX says, I hope these aren't like the press passes from last year that gave you less access than those who did not have the pass. I have no idea what Gleeman RX is talking about. I have never had any issue getting in anything over at Gen Con with my press pass. So, Kevin R. Smith says, you've never stayed downtown at Gen Con, and I have. No, I have stayed downtown. Elliot had not. The year I got downtown, because the only year I ever had a halfway decent, like booking, I shouldn't even say halfway decent. It was just after noon when it opened, was 2021. And I flew solo that year. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to treat myself. I am going to stay at the Crown Plaza because I was able to get into the Crown Plaza. So, but yeah, it was just, king size bed. It was only me. So yeah, I have stayed downtown before. It's just normally we don't, because normally we would never have an access time to the housing portal early enough. So just like I thought, well, you know what? My time was 3:37. I'm going to go take a peek at 3:37, see what's left. All that was left were 4 hotels not a one was closer than 15 miles to the convention center. So it's sort of like, I mean, you know, granted, you can book on booking.com other places too. It's not like every motel and hotel is on the housing portal, but still. All righty. Chris Lundgren asks, is there a lot of OSR products at Gen Con, or is that only Gary Con? Oh, there's way more OSR stuff at Gen Con than Gary Con. Gary Con's exhibitor area is tiny, in my opinion. At least when we went. And then, of course, when we went to Founders and Legends last year, they didn't have an exhibitor area. So, Kevin R. Smith says it was 2 years ago. It was over 65,000. They may have broken 70,000 last year. I think they did. I think in recent memory, the year that they had the biggest attendance was for the 50th anniversary. Madman says the first time at Gen Con, they had 5 in a room, slept on an air mattress in the small jacuzzi tub. The air mattress sprung a leak. Ouch. Ouch. All righty. So just wanted to let you know, once again, obviously enough, you knew I'd be covering Gen Con as I normally do, but we're going to be hanging out downtown. If you are attending Gen Con, be sure to reach out, because Elliot and I are thinking of scheduling a night to maybe get together and have a few adult beverages with fans of the show and the channel and the website. So we will see what's going on. All right. Anyway, moving right along, we're going to jump on in and take a first look at Campaign Builder, Dungeons and Ruins from Kobold Press in just a few moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission. After I show you that again for paypal.me/thegaminggang, or yeah, it is paypal.me/thegaminggang.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
What are you doing? I'm eating Skittles Fruit Chews. I crunch the outsides and chew the insides. They feel real good in my mouth. Yeah, they taste all fruity. I love the colors. Lemon, orange, brown, strawberry, lime, purple. Give me an orange one. Fruity little Skittles are fun to chew. Some for me and some for you.
Did you drink your Wilkins coffee this morning?
Of course not.
Okay. That boy's got a long way to go.
At the dawn of the 21st century, the Army began a top-secret experiment.
Meet Joe Bowers, our first subject for the human hibernation experiment. As you know, this is highly classified. However, if successful, we believe humans can be stored indefinitely.
However, the trial run was prone to human error.
See you in a year.
And Joe slept slightly longer than expected. Half a millennium, to be exact. From Mike Judge, creator of Office Space and Beavis and Butthead.
Oh my God!
If you were the smartest person in the world...
This goes in your mouth. This one goes in your butt. Hang on a second. This one goes in your mouth.
And we're stuck with the dumbest people in history.
If you have one bucket that holds 2 gallons and another bucket that holds 5 gallons, how many buckets do you have?
2?
What would you do?
Excuse me, I'm actually supposed to be getting out of prison.
You're in the wrong line.
I'm the smartest guy in the world? Says who?
The IQ test you took in prison. You got the highest score in history.
Even smarter than President Camacho.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of America! In the year 2505.
We got this guy. He's gonna fix everything. So you smart, huh?
The ordinary will be considered extraordinary.
How come your head would be bigger?
Idiocracy.
For the smartest guy in the world, you're pretty dumb sometimes.
Oh, I'm sorry, everybody. I don't know how that recent news footage made it in. I was supposed to be sharing a movie trailer. Jack Hanks is with us in chat. I noticed that Chris Lundgren had mentioned, he said they've got a friend who went to the last WonderCon, which is in Anaheim, California, across the street from Disneyland. Said there's a lot more gaming RPGs and sellers than at San Diego Comic-Con. Oh, God, yes. Reason behind that is the cost to exhibit at Comic-Con. It's insane. So, and even like Hasbro has, it's not a huge area because mainly all they're doing is selling exclusives for the convention. But Hasbro's there. They'll have a decent sized area, but there's no Dungeons and Dragons stuff unless maybe they're selling an exclusive Dungeons and Dragons toy. Now, funny enough, we kind of kicked around covering WonderCon because it's run by the same folks who run San Diego Comic-Con. So we get approved for both conventions every year. Just have never had an opportunity to go out there. Just haven't. Plus, probably won't be going to San Diego Comic-Con this year either, sadly enough. Matthew Blackwell's saying, sadly, they've yet to find a tabletop role-playing game convention in Florida. Really? That's kind of surprising. Interesting. All right, so I know it's been a while. It's been about an hour since the show kicked off. Sorry, we kind of got talking about other stuff. But we are going to dive on in right now and take a look at Campaign Builder Dungeons and Ruins from Kobold Press. The 256-page hardcover carries an MSRP of $49.99. Right now, you can grab the PDF alone over at DriveThruRPG for $34.99. Strangely enough, Kobold Press doesn't stick with the usual traditional sort of, oh, well, the PDF is half off. It's like, little surprised this isn't $24.99 for the PDF. All right, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Campaign Builder, Dungeons and Ruins. A few things to mention before we jump on in. And W. Forge is pointing out that Invincible RPG by Free League was announced. We talked about that earlier. There's actually news on thegaminggang.com about it. I believe Kevin King mentioned Deadlands Lost Colony had launched on BackerKit. It's actually Deadlands Lost Colony Mad World, because I've got a news piece lined up already for tomorrow, so we are going to talk about that. So Chris Lundgren asks, is this for 5.5 or 5e? This is for Tales of the Valiant, damn your eyes. Not the Dungeons and Dragons game. But of course, it can be used with D&D, obviously enough. See, there's the 5e. Brave the Darkness, your ultimate guide to dungeon design. Challenge your players with journeys into subterranean halls and long-lost cities with Campaign Builder Dungeons and Ruins, the ultimate dungeoneering tool. Dungeons and Ruins provides a comprehensive guide to creating, I almost said for creating, engaging dungeons, terrifying traps, and much more. And then it's going to tell us a bunch of the goodies that are in here, which we're going to find out on our own as we flip on through this. But as I was about to say, a couple of things. Number one, my friends over at Kobold Press were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. And of course, I say it all the time. It's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the book, but I do want to give you a really good feel for what you're going to find inside. So to this point, I have checked out Campaign Builder, the Towns book, as well as the Castles book, and they're excellent. This is an excellent series. So I am really looking forward to checking this out. So we've got a lot of authors. We've got a lot of artists. First off, let's give some credit where credit is due. Speaking of 5e and 5.5, I shared a poll today on the social media channels as well as on our community here, asking if people would like to see a live first look of the Monster Manual for Dungeons & Dragons 2024 on tomorrow's show, and it is skewing negative. Not a ton, though. Funny enough, it's negative on YouTube. On X, it's yes. There you go. Chris Lundgren's like, yes, please. So I'm going to total them all up, but at this rate, it does look like we will be taking a peek at something else, and I will tell you what that's going to be a little bit later. So here's our table of contents. Delving into the unknown. Then Chapter 1, Dungeoneering Heroes. So this is where we're going to get some new subclasses. Nice. We get some new heritages, backgrounds, talents, gear, mounts, vehicles, magic items. So it looks like we've got about almost 30 pages devoted to characters. Then we got running exploration, dungeon delves, caves, ruins, and hex crawls. Chapter 3 is Dungeons and Ruins, What Lies Within. And this is going to be essentially giving us some tips on building the dungeons. But I want to say the real selling point for the Campaign Builder books is not the random tables, because it's so far, now this might be different, but I doubt it. So far, the approach is always from kind of a higher level of how are we creating interesting sandboxes for the players to play in, as opposed to, oh, okay, oh, so it's an L-shaped room here, like you're building it on the map, right? So very cool. Very cool. So it's going to discuss using the book. Campaign Builder Dungeons and Ruins provides a complete toolkit for creating, expanding, and enhancing the Dungeons and Ruins of the Tales of the Valiant role-playing game. Perfect for... Man, I felt that coming on for about 30 seconds. I was like, oh, is it going to go away? for enhancing the dungeons and ruins of the Tales of the Valiant role-playing game, perfect for fleshing out all the as yet undiscovered dangers and secrets of any game world. I was like Kobold Press's art too. So here are the new subclasses. So the barbarian gets the mycelial. So they infest themselves with fungal spores. Aha. Okay. The bard subclass, the elegy. Bards who align with the College of Elegy seek to discover and chronicle the lives and histories of the dead. Chris Leonard says, still crying on the floor now. Oh, my sobs. 5.5 stuff. I will have to see it in the used bookstore. I heard it's already showing up in such stores. I don't know. And I've said this before. I don't understand the level of hatred that Dungeons and Dragons gets. I get it. Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro, yes, complete assholes. It's all about the ducats. But just like, on the flip side of that, I don't understand the people who are just absolute WotC boys. It's like, oh, it's all D&D. Every other game is garbage. I've never looked at any other game, but they're all garbage. It's only Dungeons and Dragons. Oh. It's like, okay. I mean, so far, the first two books I've reviewed for D&D 2024, I've liked. I thought they were good. I got to be honest, I liked them better than the 2014 books. All right, so we've got the Mechanist subclass, the Demolitionist. Now, remember, we are looking at the classes from Tales of the Valiant. So Raven is with us in chat, points out, why worry about a game you're not playing? I get it. I know. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, people who are into OSR, maybe they're still playing AD&D, which is great. That's fine. I love it. But they're like, oh, they hate everything about, modern Dungeons and Dragons. It's like, who cares? You don't play it. Why are you wasting your time on social media bitching about this stuff? You don't play the game. Kevin R. Smith says, seems like 5.5 isn't that bad, just not enough to excite them. I get it. I'm with you. See, we'll talk about this a little bit when we get into the taking a peek at the maps, because we'll just be looking at maps. So we can kind of talk about other stuff too. But Kevin R. Smith, don't forget that point, because we'll return to it. All right, so then we got some talents, magic talents, martial talents, technical talents. This looks like some sort of, it's an iron wombat. So that is a vehicle. No joke. It says right there, iron wombat. It's 15,000 gold pieces, and it can travel 2 miles an hour. Chris Lundgren's talking about, they just ran Swords and Wizardry with terrain. It was great to run it, a new role-playing game. Swords and Wizardry is really solid. It's kind of a mashup of OD&D and AD&D, if I remember. I haven't seen the newest revised edition, but that was sort of the vibe that I got when I did my review. And interestingly enough, you also had Matt Finch was one of the masterminds behind Osric. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're not going to see a second edition of Osric anytime soon. Because I think Matt Finch is too busy with Swords and Wizardry. Okay, so this section here is running exploration. Exploration is a key pillar of adventure, encompassing all manner of challenges and unique gaming opportunities to fill the need for discovery. This chapter provides guidance on effectively running dungeon delves and useful details for exploring caves and ruins, expanding on options for expeditions into the great unknown. Kevin King says they ran several Tales of the Valiant sessions over the holidays. Players who were involved in it liked it better than 5.5. I have reviewed the 3 major books for Tales of the Valiant, and out of the 3, the one I liked the least, although I still recommended it, was the Player's Handbook. And to me, it just simply wasn't that different than what we currently are seeing with Dungeons and Dragons, because there were some changes in Tales of the Valiant, which were also changes that were made in the 2024 edition of Dungeons and Dragons. But the Game Master's Guide, the Monster Vault are excellent. And I don't have anything against Tales of the Valiant. I think it's a very solid system. And the reality is the player characters are a bit more beefed up than even D&D. So Raven's curious, how does Tales of the Valiant play at high levels? Yeah, you know what? I would also be kind of curious about that, because that's where we normally see the big fall off. Once we get past mid-level in Dungeons and Dragons adventures, the high-level adventures tend to be a bit lacking, and they tend to focus on things that you have to kind of, the term has always been gimp the players in order to pull off, because the players have achieved magical spells or various different items, which will defeat the challenge with this, snap of the fingers. And they're like, oh, okay. Oh, well, they're lying to us. Well, we've got this spell here. Oh, yeah, they are. They're lying. The truth is this. So then, the adventure designers have to come up with ways to screw the players over, right? So we see that a lot. Kevin R. Smith says, I'm not sure how many people outside of Kobold Press have played high-level Tales of the Valiant. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Well, at Gen Con, I will be doing my best to interview Wolfgang Bauer once again. It's kind of an annual thing. I'll look to ask him about that, because I gotta say, Wolfgang Bauer is pretty straight up when you're interviewing him. He doesn't dodge questions or anything like that. All right, so we are into burial sites, lost cities. So, as an example, we've got the lost cities. When a city or entire empire falls, whoever settles there next often incorporates and builds upon what remains of the former. Sometimes, though, those cities and empires are simply forgotten over time or somehow lost to memory. And then we get the environment, talking about the environments where you would find these locations, exploring these locations, creatures and other dangers, notable sites. So these are some specific areas that you could incorporate. We also get story seeds. So each of these different types of locations is going to provide us with a bit of advice and detail for utilizing them in your game. So here, sample ruins. This is something else we tend to see in the Campaign Builder series, are examples of things. So like we had with the castles and crowns, wasn't it? Or crowns and castles? I forget the title of it. We had example kingdoms. So very nice. Very nice. So now we get into hex crawls. What's a hex crawl? Creating a hex map. Some examples here. Terrain elements. Got some random tables for distinct hex elements if you want to do it randomly. Hex crawl activities. So you've got travels. Then we got information about travel. Exploration, investigation, scouting and tracking. Camp activities. And then we get some wilderness location encounters. Now we are into dungeons and ruins. So we get into some info about single sessions. So how to design a dungeon of a size which would be perfect to finish up in a single session. I don't think we're going to get into information about like mega dungeons, because I don't think mega dungeons are really a thing for Kobold Press. I would say probably the closest to a mega dungeon they've done is the Sunless Citadel. And I mean, it's a dungeon, but it's not a dungeon that you're going to spend years of game time exploring. All right. So we are still in these like example places. I think so. Because we've got Sacred Necropolis, Forlorn Graveyard. Okay, so this is Lost Ruins. Lost Ruins are like a unique setting sequestered somewhere out of the way within the game world, where they are potentially free of all design constraints. The discovery of such sites and the hidden or forgotten peoples who created them provides the opportunity to introduce new creatures, unique types of magic or technology, and strange lore or alternate histories. The results should be just as weird as they need to be. So then we start getting into information about creating ruins. And based on the environment, the terrain that they're found. So as you can see, there are plenty of random tables here, but myself personally, I would use these more as inspiration as opposed to just, rolling up things completely randomly, because then all they really are is random and they feel random. Pete Strackwood says Scarlet Citadel has a huge stack of maps. Chris Lundgren says they'd like to see me review terrain books and sets. I think it'd be a cool review, or how to find cheap alternatives to miniatures. Well, your cheap alternative miniatures are pawns right there. Terrain books, hey, if anybody wants to send them along, I'm more than happy to take a peek at them. Okay, so looks like we are into more of the ruin stuff. Diseases, hazards. Various different hazardous fungi and plants, hazardous gases and liquids. Curses. I think we've got a few different curses here. Inconsistent form. The afflicted character is cursed to constantly metamorphose randomly from one form to another. Salt of the earth. This curse withers an area, killing crops, allowing nothing to grow, and denying any bounty. Wouldn't you think that'd be salting the earth, not salt the earth? I guess salt the earth is fine. Got more hazards. Poisoned air, tainted water, unquiet spirits. Due to curses, tragic deaths, or lingering necromantic magic, the spirits of the dead somehow lingered to plague the living. While less dangerous than actual undead, undead spirits can unnerve and disturb the living. The presence of unquiet spirits isn't immediately obvious until they're triggered into manifesting. Get some sample traps. searing heat, shock lock, puzzles and skill challenges. So something that I always kind of really trumpet as far as dungeon delving is you need to have interactivity with the dungeon. There have got to be things for the players to be curious about, to have their characters play with. We talk about it all the time. The shiny cherry red button that says, do not push. It's like, all right. You need to have a lot of those sorts of goodies in your dungeons. Now, I'm not saying there's got to be interactivity in every single keyed area of the dungeon, but you just can't expect players. Well, okay, I'm going to rephrase this. You can't expect most players to sit there and just play through one combat encounter after another combat encounter after another combat encounter. So that's something else that's important, at least in my opinion, is having some sort of dungeon ecology going on where things make some sort of sense, that it's not just a complete funhouse dungeon. So that's one of the aspects. And then, of course, you want to make it where, you know, some rooms have nothing, right? Some rooms you just zip through exploring really quickly. So here's a bit of a bestiary with some new creatures in it. Got some random tables here, adventure hooks, encounters in dungeons, and then we've got challenge ratings for these encounters in ruins, people and places. So names of the ruins, points of interest near the ruins, names of famous NPCs. Nice. And some puzzle handouts. But as far as any sort of dungeon or adventure location, you want to try to bring it to life with a variety of different sorts of challenges. And a lot of times you want to tailor it to your group. Now, if you're playing with a group of people that you don't know very well, that's going to be a little more difficult. So if you're in a situation like that, I would say sprinkle in a variety of different challenges. So maybe a trap here, and then a hazard here, and a combat encounter here, and an encounter that could lead to combat, but maybe the player characters can find a way around that. Maybe they can parlay. Maybe they can make some sort of a trade or a deal. Sprinkle that stuff throughout, and then you'll find out what your players enjoy the most. Now, I mean, there are people out there, it's all they like to do is just chuck dice and fight stuff. Okay, I get it. It's just not how my gang operates, thank goodness. All right, so that is a peek inside Campaign Builder, Dungeons and Ruins, from my friends over at Kobold Press. Once again, this is available in hardcover, carries an MSRP of $49.99. If you want to just grab the PDF alone, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $34.99. So there is some discussion about, I don't know if it's low or low-key battle maps. I have heard of them. But as Kevin R. Smith points out, those aren't terrain. They're like play mats would be. Like, say, as an example, the Pathfinder flip mats that we take a peek at, or the Map Folio right here, which is what we're going to dive on into. So I'm going to move the Dungeons and Ruins out of the way. So there are supposed to be a dozen of these in here. And they're usually two-sided. So we're going to take a peek at... Oh, no, I'm sorry. I take that back. There are 6 in here because it says there are a dozen. So we should have 6 dual-sided game maps. All right. So if I remember correctly, Kevin R. Smith was also talking about Dungeons & Dragons, as I like to refer to it, 5.5, which Wizards of the Coast does not like that. They prefer 2024, which is fine. Whatever. Kevin R. Smith was saying it seems fine, just can't get excited about it. And I gotta say that I think one of the reasons why is because we have not seen any adventure releases yet. Because in my opinion, that is normally where many of the Dungeons and Dragons releases fall short. It's not their fluff books. It's always the adventures. So like the Planescape adventure, awful. Just awful. And it was sort of like, oh yeah, it's Planescape, but we're never going to leave this plane. Great. Right, so this is, this looks like an underwater temple. That's kind of cool. All right, what do we got? This is something else that's going to be underground, it looks like. So this is a cave system. So it looks as if we have a crypt. And this is some sort of a shrine, it appears here. So these are 3x3 as far as the panels go. So these are pretty big. Of course, they are treated so that you can use various different markers and still erase them. So that is the first of our map folios, or I should say maps. We're looking at the map folio. That's what happens when you're talking and staring at words. Sometimes they creep on in. Right, so this looks like this might be I was going to say some sort of a temple. So we've got some side rooms. Looks like this is somebody's study down here. Ooh, secret door. Secret door. All right, so that's that. Let's see what we got here. This is underground. So this looks like this is part of a dungeon. So this might be the lair of a monster. And those are the picked bones in a pit. Looks like we've got some containers here. Might be a storage area. And some sort of a lair. Because we've got eggs there. So it looks like it's a bunch of eggs. All right. So that is the second of the maps. These look pretty cool. So I'll say the same thing I say when we're taking a look at the Pathfinder releases, which I actually just received today. So I've got all of, I think they're coming out March 5th. I've got all those goodies, including the 2 flip mats. And what I always say is that these are excellent for skirmish level fantasy miniatures games too. So it looks like these are the ruins in some dungeon. It's like everything's scattered apart, cracking, falling apart. That's cool. And then got this area here. All right, next side. This looks kind of like another temple of some sort. Kind of a Egyptian desert vibe to it. Yeah. Right there. I was going to say, you don't get more Egyptian vibe than that. There we go. All right. And this looks like got an entrance into the either the lower or upper section here. Very nice. Okay, we've got 3 more. This one's outside, so these are some sort of ruins. Looks almost like a hill fort. I think that's what this is supposed to be, is a hill fort, because it looks like there's even a bit of a moat here that surrounds it. I like the detail. Pretty nice. All right, then we got another dungeon area here. It's like another storage area. Oh, we got treasure. Yeah, jackpot, baby. More treasure over here. Looks like we've got, looks like a study. Cool. This is supposed to be, it looks like it's a sword sitting on maybe a sarcophagus. All right, next up. But yeah, as far as people not being like super excited about the new, not new edition of Dungeons and Dragons, I think part of it is that you've got some gamers out there who feel that now they're kind of being forced to buy all new books. And I think that's part of the pushback on D&D 2024, is that it's like, hey, there's nothing wrong with 5e, and the changes aren't so drastic that you need to go pick the books up. So, I mean, I understand that. Of course, we are looking here at a cave system. But if you were someone who was brand new to the hobby and you had heard a lot about Dungeons and Dragons from people, and you're like, hey, you know what? I really want to learn how to play this. I want to check this out. Maybe, you know, you go up to your local comic shop and they've got a D&D Adventurers League going on. People are out there probably won't like me saying this. I got to say, the Dungeons and Dragons 2024 is solid. It's decent. Like I already pointed out, I liked it better, at least the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide. I like them better than the 2014, especially the Dungeon Master's Guide. But, you know, a lot of people get pissed off if I sit there and say, hey, you know what? That's really good. You know? So anyway, Kevin R. Smith says the Dungeon Master's Guide might be the exception. It's universally regarded as better than the 2014 one. Yeah, I get you. Raven says, but D&D is broken at high levels. But here's the thing. The vast majority of players are never going to play Dungeons and Dragons at high levels. The vast majority of gamers of any role-playing game are not going to play high-level play. They just aren't. Especially, say, like D&D. Because, now, once again, this is just my opinion. Nobody get, butthurt because I'm saying, fuck you, Jeff, fuck you. I'm unsubscribing. I hate that guy. Like snot, like running out of their nose from so much crying. Yeah, don't do that. All right, so that was a peek inside the Map Folio for Campaign Builder Dungeons and Ruins from my friends over at Kobold Press. This carries an MSRP of $59.99. And of course, stay tuned. I will be sharing my review of Dungeons and Ruins in the very near future. I've been trying to get my turnaround on reviews to shorten them up. And I think I've done okay the past few months. So Otto is with us in chat, says, rage. Nah, Jeff's got it right, folks. Chris Leonard asks, can you get just the Map Folio? Yes, you can. You can easily get it. But as Raven was pointing out, she says, I don't know why I assumed it was a woman. So Raven points out that Dungeons & Dragons is broken at high levels. And I would agree if I was more familiar with high-level Dungeons & Dragons play. Both. So Raven goes, I am a dude. Like I said, I don't know why. I think, what was it? What was that? There was a Disney show where the character was a little girl and it was Raven or something. Maybe that's why I thought. Anyway, hey, I caught myself. I said, why am I assuming? But yeah, there you go. Lumen RX is X-Men Raven. But few people know about the challenges that higher level play has with just about any role-playing game. It's not only Dungeons and Dragons, and the reality is it's normally role-playing games that have levels. So if you have games where the player characters have, say, like basic role-playing, Call of Cthulhu, RuneQuest, so forth, where they have skills which are percentile and they have attributes which are percentile, and you get to add to those as they progress, as they advance, you don't have these issues with having experienced characters in adventures. It's normally fantasy role-playing games that utilize the level system and have magic items and magic spells that do powerful things, which would basically eliminate high-level challenges like that. And that's why you'll normally see high-level fantasy adventures have some sort of thing like, oh, well, there's a field surrounding whatever, which prevents the players from utilizing this spell, items that do this. And people get frustrated with that because it's sort of like, hey, I earned this shit. I should be able to use this shit in the game. What's the point of having a +3 Vorpal blade if all you're going to do is throw monsters at me, which are going to have like an advantage against that? There you go. W Forces. That's so Raven. Yes, that was the name of the show. But yeah, it's kind of a thing. Now, as far as like Tales of the Valiant high level play, I have not really heard people talking about it. And as was pointed out in chat, it's possible that only people at Kobold Press have actually played high level games. Pete Strackwitz says, I love D&D, Forgotten Realms, Mesobaranzan. Did I pronounce that right? Dark Sun, Ravenloft, and I stand by the game 100%. Just not those trying to rape it and degrade its founders. Just saying. I agree with you. I completely agree. But it's also a situation, as was already pointed out in chat, that if you're not playing the game, and I've talked about this before, who fucking cares? You don't play it. You have I'm not talking about like Pete Strakulich in particular. I'm just saying gamers out there. So if you enjoy an old school Renaissance sort of game, or you enjoy a different system altogether, or you enjoy a different genre altogether, who cares what Wizards of the Coast is doing with Dungeons and Dragons? I mean, yes, the nonsense about where it's sort of like, well, you know, TSR kind of sucked and the people were misogynists and racist, and yeah, that's a bunch of nonsense. But as far as, you know, the developments, so what? Who cares? That's why I don't understand. Like, people will get mad at me for reviewing a D&D book now. Like, I guarantee when I share my review of the Monster Manual, I am going to see comments where it's like, oh, Jeff sold out for the views. It's like, no, not really. It's because I know there are people out there who subscribe to the channel who would like to know what my opinion is of the latest D&D books. Because they know I'm going to tell them like it is, what I feel. And if I feel something's crap, I'm going to tell you it's crap. If I like something a lot, I'm going to tell you I like it a lot. And as I already pointed out before, the D&D 2024 books that I have reviewed so far, the first two, I liked. Would I play D&D? No. No, I wouldn't. It's not my thing. So even in chat, people are saying, like W Forge and Otto are saying, yeah, they would like to know what my opinion is on the Monster Manual. But we are going to see people who are going to be like, Jeff sold out. Can't believe Jeff's wasting his time with that review. All Jeff cares about is the views. And it's like, whatever. Chris Lundgren's throwing a bone out to Bloat Games. Very nice. Very cool. Jack Hank says they love D&D, but they also love Call of Cthulhu, Delta Green. They even GM a GURP zombie mystery campaign. Nice. Yeah, see, that's the thing that I am a firm believer of. Somehow I get a little hair in my eye. And that is that gamers of all stripes, and I'm not talking only game masters, I was talking about players, they should check out at least one other game. Check out one other game. So if you play Dungeons and Dragons, why not take a peek at the Call of Cthulhu Quick Start or the Call of Cthulhu Starter Set? Branch out. It's good for the hobby, and it's good for you and your group, because you begin to realize that, hey, guess what? The Wizards of the Coast way isn't the only way. Oh, look, the D20 action resolution isn't the only action resolution that's out there. Games like Apocalypse Engine, even if you weren't running it, Apocalypse Engine is a great tool for game masters to help them with their creativity and to be able to act on the fly. Even if you've got no interest in the mechanics that power that game or Dungeon World or anything else that's powered by the Apocalypse, it is a good toolbox for game masters out there. Jack Hanks says, thanks to the Gaming Gang channel, they discovered Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay and Delta Green. Yeah, because I try to spread the love. I think that's another thing that kind of freaks me out when people get pissed off about me sharing D&D stuff. It's like, this isn't a Dungeons and Dragons channel. This isn't a 5e channel. It's a gaming channel. So I will share first looks at stuff from the biggest publishers out there. I'll share reviews of stuff from the biggest publishers out there. And then I also share stuff from little one-person mom and pop shops because it's good for the hobby. Kathy Evans points out, playing other games can prevent burnout. I agree. Even if you're just going to run, I wouldn't say just a one-shot, but if you ran like a short, like 3-session campaign, I think that'd be really something to look into. So like if you play, say, like Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and your group gets together every Friday night and they play for 4 hours, whatever, maybe tossing in a superhero game for 3 sessions would work nicely. Maybe, the Walking Dead role-playing game, whatever you guys are into, toss it out there for a few weeks as like what people like to refer to like as a palate cleanser, and then go back into your campaign. Sweet. All right. Long show tonight. Yep. Gleeman RX, Call of Cthulhu starter set. Bing. They've been playing through it. It's amazing. Very nice. Chris Leonard says, my problem is there are so many RPGs I want to try now thanks to the Gaming Gang. And they're a better GM because of trying new RPGs. Oh, yeah. Talk about it all the time. Cribbing stuff from another game to use in yours. I mean, that is a sign of a skilled game master. So a well-versed game master. Tessie Trekkie says they play everything from crunchy OSR through middleweight Savage Worlds all the way through to sword-wielding fops who seduce elderly noble ladies. I didn't realize that was a genre of games. All righty. So, as I mentioned, I have that poll going about the Monster Manual 2024. If people want to see a first look on tomorrow's show, it is skewing to the negative, which is fine. So if it ends up coming out more against than for, we are going to dive on in for a first look at Pathfinder 2nd Edition Remaster NPC Core. Yes, you may recall I mentioned that I got all of the new releases that are coming from Pathfinder. And yes, I will still be sharing my Paizo preview for the month, but we'll actually take a deeper dive into this. I know a lot of people are eagerly anticipating this because it's the NPC book. Sweet. So we'll take a look at that more than likely tomorrow. If for some reason the poll skews where people say yes, then we'll take a first look at the Monster Manual 2024. for Dungeons and Dragons. Then on Thursday's show, we're going to dive on in and take a first look at Grit fantasy role-playing game from Gnomebot Studio. Remember I said Goblin Bot? I'm pretty sure it is. Yes. Okay. Gnomebot Studios, plural. That will be on the Thursday show. And then I'll even tell you what we're looking at a week from tonight. It is Symborum. How do you pronounce this? Agrella, City of Eternal Euphoria. Yes. Symborum. 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 Have to be a regular viewer to get the joke there. So that is what is on the horizon. All right, that's it for this time out. If you like the show, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central right here on YouTube. We'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my review of the Land of Eam core rulebook from Exalted Funeral. If you were curious about this after you saw my unboxing of that deluxe box set, tell you what I think of the core rulebook. Check it out. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, a tip of the cap to you, because not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company while I'm reading off the news or paging through something. And, you know, it is highly appreciated that you're staying entertained. But I know a lot of folks out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you for taking time out to watch any of the over 2,100 videos here on the channel. Thank you kindly. All right, everybody. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you for watching. And as I always say, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.